that is looking pretty good. Do think there's a little bit more I can do to really exaggerate this zigzag shadow that's going on right here. But I'm sure this isn't the most amazing thing to watch. And as the title suggests, I'm doing this for the people. Now I really want to push the dark, so in a few spots. And so to do that, I'm just using less acrylic medium and stuff, and using much more paint. Ramsey's COVID, nice. Thanks for the Meat Boy icon. So I'm going to get as much paint without the medium on there, and that's really going to make this as dark as possible. The darkest areas are here, which it's going to be tough to get this much darker, but also right here on this edge. I'm going to just really wrap that around that edge. I'm actually breaking out the shape I created that I masked off and taped to really make sure that wraps around that hand and looks natural. So I'm going to identify some of the other darks. Here. And then obviously on the left side, I'm going to try to make this a little darker, but it is going to do too. Thing that I used to do when I was starting to paint was I would never have enough contrast in my paintings. Everything would be in the middle values. It wouldn't be darks. It wouldn't be super whites. And it kind of makes your painting or your drawing or whatever you're doing look great. So if you're a painter and you're unsure why things kind of look drab, it's probably contrast. Try and push your darks, your darks and your lights. But I think that's it. Now, oh, you know what? I missed one super dark green. And that is right here. So, it is still kind of glaring on camera, but it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. I guess it looks a little better. We're actually gonna be moving away from this soon anyway. clean up where this meets the skin. Now, there is something here that is not counted for, and that's the subtle shadow kind of underneath where that, first bracelet is, where it meets the skin. It's going to cast a little tiny shadow. And it's almost so small that you can't even see it, even in the source serial. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to paint it in. I'm going to wait until we're glazing color over top of this, and in the glaze I'm going to put the tiniest little shadow, specifically in important areas, like right in the middle here. There's not going to be much of it here. I'll have to see how it is on the sides, but I think it's mostly going to be just right here. A little shadow on the flesh, right in the middle of this curve. So I also, now that I'm looking at it, want to make sure that this curve of the bracelet looks like a natural curve of a bracelet, right? Because if it doesn't, we've got a problem. Now, here, you're actually seeing the hands. So the actual curve of the bracelet doesn't start till about right here. This isn't the curve of the bracelet. I want to have a relatively even curve here. Before I do that, let me get the music going again. Oh, I don't like this one. How about this? So, really getting that curve right. I think we're getting there. I think that is what we want. So because this is gold, we're going to have darker darks in the skin and lighter lights in the skin. Just by its nature, making something shiny usually requires that huge range in value. So this is going to be a lot of whites, and it's going to be the contrast of those that make it look like it's shiny, gold, metal. So once we get the whites in there, it's really going to look really great. So now I have to make a decision on what I'm going to do next. Right? I'm going to end up dismantling this horrible device that I've created here. And I can either work on the shadows here, where this hand overlaps. We might make some things kind of go back in space a little bit. Or we start here on this. Now, we're going to need some time for this. So we essentially have an hour and a half. I think it's probably better to work on this, but at the same time, I also want to do all of the dress at the same time. There's some of it up here too. It's here, and then this almost entire negative space down here, with the exception of this obvious leg and then another leg. So an hour and a half definitely isn't enough time to do all of it. Decisions. You know what? Let's start. We're gonna do this. Started this on Tuesday. Let's finish it, and we'll worry about this maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll finish masking this off, and tomorrow we're gonna tackle this dress, which There's a lot of folds in it, kind of ripples, your typical drapery, you know, type of design in there. It's going to look great, but it's going to take a lot of time. So I'm going to tape all this off between now and then. Definitely not in the hour between work and the stream tomorrow, because I've learned the hard way that that doesn't work. So that's the plan. Maybe after this, we will perhaps start taping that off. Not really sure. I know taping isn't the most captivating thing to watch, but it'll give us a head start on tomorrow. So if you have been watching the stream VODs on YouTube, which if you haven't, it's you can just find me N0OGIT Nougat on YouTube. I'm going to be changing the format. For now, that it's kind of just the stream is broken up into chunks and put on YouTube. It's not super captivating for YouTube. So I'm going to be changing that. Really, it's going to be one video per stream. It's going to be the highlights, and really going to get some quality content for the people. All right, so if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I mean, you're watching me on Twitch, thank you for that. But I digress. We're going to put some shadows here. So the main shadows are going to be behind this hand, which is partially covered up with tape. I'm going to have to tape real quick this thumb. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blend it down in. It's going to grade it down from here down. It's going to be darker and darker, but then super dark around when the hand meets it. And to do that, I'm actually going to simulate this by doing something like this. I want to make sure I mimic my light source, right? So here, the light is coming in basically at this angle here. Maybe a little lower, maybe something like this. So my lights are a bit too tall, but they can still get a good impression. So if I'm not going to be able to do this on the stream, I'm going to have to take a photo. But this is something that you can do if you have source material that just doesn't seem to make sense. You can simulate it, see where the shadows are. Like right now, I'm getting some great information. So it's not like this. Oh, that's perfect. So not only are we getting information on where the shadow is, but also some of the structure of the hood. It's something that I always do. Not having a model to see in person, I usually end up being one. And just a little snippet of information. This hand here is actually my hand. If that's interesting as the slightest. That's my hand. And actually, there have been several paintings of mine or drawings where a hand's I didn't have the resolution in the photo, so I set up my hand, took a photo of it, and painted my hand. Actually, I'm going to show one example of then a drawing. This is a study of a cartoon of Leonardo da Vinci. So when I say cartoon, I mean a cartoon is the name for like a preparatory drawing, not like a Sunday paper funnies cartoon kind of thing. So this is an unfinished drawing. He basically did the sketch. He knew what he wanted to do, and he just stopped the drawing, went to the painting. So this part here basically doesn't exist. It's kind of just a really vague shape. So this hand here is actually my hand. Actually, both hands. You can see the fingers there. They're mine. I do it all the time. And not just hands, but I've done a lot of hands and stuff. So, back to this painting. Still don't have the best setup here for this. So, we're gonna have to do more tripod magic here. See what we can do. This is an interesting challenge we got going on here. Basically making it completely impossible to get at this, to actually do the painting. That's okay. We'll figure it out. So I have to pull my tabouret back over, and I think we're ready to go. I can get a little closer. So most of what we're going to be doing is going to be right here. And I'm going to tape this off very quickly. Like before, I'm going to use artist tape with some Scotch tape at the very tip because it requires a bit more detail. I'm going to be working around this thing. It's going to be kind of difficult, but luckily you can see it in the detail cam, so that's awesome. So basically just taping this off, which if you couldn't see the detail on this before, you can certainly see it now, I'm guessing. Let me... I was hoping I could get a little bit closer, but maybe I can't. I need a camera with zoom. That is not going to work. Because this is a thin area, we really need to tear our tape in half to make sure it is not overlapping the edge we're trying to paint on the other side. Way too long. So here you might be able to see a little better where I put my fingernail down and then tear along it. That's all we're going to do on the left edge. The tip is going to be all Scotch tape. are... It's very possible that this hand is also my hand, but I don't remember. It might not be. I have no idea. So, like last time, we're going to put this down. We're not going to press it in all the way around. We're going to cut along our edges. Like most of my stuff, I am breaking this down into straight lines. And I just scratched my painting with my knife. That's something you definitely do not want to do. So when that happens, we're going to move on to emergency repair here. What I'm going to do is I have some of this burnt umber here on my palette, and I'm just tapping it. It's some of the thin stuff that I used here. And I'm just tapping it and making it super, super thin, right? It's just on the tip of my finger. And you can see that there. And now we're just going to tap it. Until we fill it in. And then we're going to kind of wipe it off. And it is still showing. You may have to go with a little bit thicker paint. But it's covered up. I don't know if you can see, if you could even see the scratch, but it's still there, but it's not as jarring, and it's going to get covered up relatively soon anyway. So I just want to make sure I really blur that patch job into the surrounding area. And now that our tape is there, I want to make sure we don't forget about it, and we're going to mark it up so that we remember that there is something there. Since we can't see the white of the artist tape with the Scotch tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my photo here, which if we look at it, we got some good information here where we can make a shadow come up like that. We also found out that the biggest shadows are going to be here in this area. And this, I don't know what, oh, you know what? I didn't tear that piece of tape quite as well as I should have. There we go. So our darkest darks are going to kind of make a little U right here and right here, and then we're gonna imitate that wrinkle that's going to go up, and it's going to come down and interact with the right side of the thumb. Kind of natural having this camera right in front of me, and I can work on the sides, and I feel like you could probably see it better too. I might try and work on that and see if I can get this maybe with a better tripod, something. I do have a kind of a boom mic stand that I might be able to get something out. Because then I could set it up over here and move it to where I need it to be, and it can be right here in front of me, and it's going to look way better. And I'm not using that mic because I used it for streaming video games before I started streaming painting. So, might be onto something here if I can find a way to attach it. But worry about that some other time. We are going to get this darkened. Now, I'm thinking I want to, for the shadows, I want to make a combination of burnt umber, dark brown, and put some blue into it to make it a little more neutral. So it's not just brown, because this is kind of already brown. I want to add a little bit of blue, make it a little cooler. It's going to go back into space because remember, cool colors recede. And I think it's going to look pretty great. So, didn't end up using white today. We'll do that tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, next week. I am going to use the rest of my burnt umber that I have on my palette. And we're going to use some of our ultramarine blue, which we have here. So, let me get some of this out on my palette. And while I procrastinate working on this section because it's scary, working on new sections of your painting, my first few streams I tried to focus on, some aspect of painting where I could teach you something. Because I don't want this to just be me painting over and over and over again, because what's the point? So, while I'm mixing this color, I want to talk about a term that you may know if you've been making your own art for an extended amount of time. And it's an acronym, and it's SCVLT. SCVLT. What it is it's the 5 characteristics of an image, and it can be carried over to three-dimensional art as well, but it stands for shape, color, value, line, texture. Those are the 5 things you need to worry about in your image and make work. So obviously shape is a shape. There are things you can do with shapes. You can make them complex, simple, depending on what you're trying to do. There's color, which doesn't mean blast, the brightest colors you can on your painting. It means use color to your advantage. Make it work for what you're trying to do. And next is value, which we've been working with heavily today. Your lights and darks. Now you can have super high contrast. That'll make something very dramatic, almost like there's a spotlight on it. It could be very upper middle value, and that's going to make it look like a photograph. Really depends on what you're trying to do. You can have it very gray, and trying to go for. I know we talked about how you may want to push your value a little bit, but in some cases that's what you want. Next is line, which we talked about how we don't want lines in our artwork if we're doing something representational. However, lines still happen. You can even think of edges as lines. You want good line quality. Line quality is kind of tough to describe, but a good line when you see it. The best lines aren't just a line, but they have some variation in thickness, or they're all very uniform lines, but they're closer together, spaced far away, and that kind of adds a bit of variation to them. If you do use lines in your artwork in general, it's more important in drawing and illustration. You want to make sure they're good lines. Line quality is so important. If your work's very sketchy, or your edges are kind of, erratic, it detracts from your image. So, in this case, my lines, because this isn't going to show, this isn't really going to be line. But what you can consider line are where my edges line up. And that's where you want good line quality, where that edge makes a line. And that's the main reason why I use tape, is because of the L in Skivell. You can also blur your lines, and it's not really underlined in Skivell, the L in Skivell. But anyway, the last one in the T is texture, which the absence of texture, having something super smooth, is also a texture. So in this case, we have kind of a bit smoother, blurry texture here. I actually think putting my drawing board up here may have scratched my paint. I'll need to check that out. But anyway, texture, we have smooth. We're going to have a much more complex texture here, and that's what's going to move your eye around. You're going to be going from one thing to another. So when you take those 5 things and you put them into one image, that is, if you do them properly, that's when you get a great painting. Now, obviously there's things in there like composition, and that's kind of a multitude of those things. Everything needs to work together. It's pretty complex, but it comes down to those 5 things. So if you make your own artwork, remember Skivell, S-C-V-L-T, shape, color, value, line, texture. Use those things to your advantage. 80504. Thank you for the follow. We need to get your name up on the wall. So, let me write this down quick. And if you have a preference for left or right side, just put it in chat and I'll make sure it goes where you want it. Otherwise, I'm just going to wing it. So, we got 80504. Let's see, can we get a good spot over here? Thinking right here. Let's do it. Eights, thanks for the follow. So, which is gone forever, but that's okay. I've already mixed my paint. I'm gonna go back to this brush here. I do still have some of the burnt umber on there, but that's okay because we have burnt umber in our mixture. I need to take a moment to prevent my cat from taking out my PC tower. Yeah, I hear you. You're not allowed up there. No Pepper. So hi to the people. Say hi, people. Well, thank you so much. No problem, mates. Hope to see you come back here every Monday and Tuesday, and on YouTube if you're more of a YouTube kind of guy or gal. So we are going to get these shadows in here. I'm going to reference the photo I took right as I was coming up with this idea. Want to get some good source material. My source sucks, at least when it comes to this part over here. You can see it right there, and I can see way more texture. So I'm going to be working relatively thin here. And we're going to see how this goes. So this is unique because I can actually blow this up here. So what we're seeing is this comes off the thumb. It's wider as we go towards the bottom. And then mirrors on this side. I am going to go in with my finger and blur some of these edges. For now, this is what we want. Just very loose. Have a shadow here. Keep that there. So we have a shadow coming off this right side here. You see I'm using my pinky on the side to really control that shape. Now it's not going to actually connect with this corner. It's just going to basically point on. And this is going to continue down through the thumb. And here is where we're going to start basically blurring the whole thing into a darker color here. So basically right here is where we're going to start blending down. I need more paint in my brush. So the way that I know this is going to turn out is I'm not going to be doing much with this once this is on my panel. So I'm going to make sure that the brushwork is interesting. This is going to get blurred with my finger. It's going to be very different. But here, I want to make sure that this brushwork is not just, whatever. I definitely want it to be interesting if you do get close to it. So this is basically just going to continue down here. This will also be dark here. You might have it blend out to a slightly lighter color down at the bottom, because that is kind of moving more towards the light source. So I think we're going to do something with that. It's a really interesting shape right there. So, is this as dark as we wanted it to be? I'd say here, for the most part, this is going to need some work. This should probably be a little darker. So if we need this dark from the end, this should also be darker here. And this is just going to make sure that the underneath the tape, the hand is really standing out. So make sure this is super gradual. There is a bit of a light spot in the imprimatur right there that I have to compensate for. Which is okay. You know what? We also forgot the other edge of this. So basically, is that the width that I want it? I'm not sure. But this is very wild, and we're going to see how it goes. It may or may not work, but we're here to experiment. So we are going to see how this goes. Okay. So we're basically done with the brush at this point. I really want to I'm gonna really blur this edge, try and make it uniform. Don't want it to look like a brush did it. Sometimes I wonder if I'm nothing more than a glorified finger painter because I do this so much. But we want it to be super, super subtle. This is the best way to do it.